Hey y'all, Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. This is going to be your next update in the chicken tractor on steroids with these dual purpose birds. Now, if you're new to this, it's critical that you go back to the very beginning and look at how everything was constructed, because if you start here, you might be a little bit confused. Okay, so I'll pick it up. Here we are. This is the week 1 pile, week 2 pile, and in that compost cage down there is week 3. So just like we did in the previous weeks, this is the critical point where this system really starts to sing. And I'll explain that in a moment. But let's just briefly talk about what's going to happen. Okay, folks, it was a little dry for a while. We finally got a little bit of rain. So we knew these piles were a bit dry. So what we did was make them look almost like a volcano in this one and that one. So it would collect a little more moisture. So when we flip these piles today, we wouldn't have to add near as much, because as we discussed before, it does require a fair amount of moisture in this system. So with that done, we got some rain, things are nice. The only thing that's going to happen at this point is this pile is going to turn to about right here. That pile is going to turn. So if you're on a slope like this, you want to try to make it to where you're at least working downhill. It makes life easier for you. So we're going to turn this pile, turn that pile down, take the compost cage, disassemble it, move the chicken tractor and reassemble it at its new location. And then the pile that's in there, just like we've done in the previous weeks, we'll turn it out. Here's the cool part. This is the juncture at which this system really starts to sing. And what do I mean by that? Is because at any given time from here on out, there will always be 3 different compost piles in various stages of decomposition. And the cool thing about that is that as your birds get bigger, they now have access to all 3 piles. And what you'll notice is that the oldest pile, because they've extracted a fair amount of the biota out of it, they'll work on it less, which is good because you're generating heat in there. They're not tearing the pile down. That one, they'll work a little bit more. And then the one that's closest to them, that's the one they'll be the most interested in. So this is where this system is really fascinating, because now the birds have more protein than they need, and I can feed them less in their compost cage. But you still want to watch it. You still want to be a good observer. In permaculture, that's big. That's really big. We want to always observe every system we have. That's probably the most critical component that's probably most overlooked. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we won't belabor you as far as flipping the piles. We'll maybe give you a little footage of that. But the critical thing to walk away from today is now this is where this system is on pretty much as close to autopilot as it can get. We'll flip this pile, flip that pile, turn the compost cage out, so on and so forth. We'll cover it then. All right, here we go. It done turned into farming weather, which means it's raining. So, which is beautiful because that's life. Speaking of life, let's talk about the other forms of life, like the ones in this pile. As you can see, we have 3 different piles here. This one is a week away from being compost. How awesome is that? And the chickens did 90% of the work. We've only turned it in the course of this 4 times, as opposed to an 18-day pile where we would have put our hands on it maybe up to 9 times. Now, let's think about this. Think about it if you were a chicken, okay? And how much you would love this environment. Imagine you have a buffet, not just any buffet. We ain't talking Golden Corral. Let's say a buffet constructed by the very best chefs on Food Network. Right here, you got a 3-course meal in the form of compost. You're getting all your protein out of here. You're getting your Kobe beef out of here. You're getting your Katahdin sheep out of there. Down there, you're getting a little bit of everything else, you know, all this wonderful protein. In there, at the end, at the very end, when we slinky this net back down the hill, you're going to have a salad course if you want it, if you're a chicken. And then right there inside that cage, you got your antipasto. You got your appetizer, all right there, folks. This is why chickens are so productive in this environment, because they have everything they need. Protein in these piles, carbs down there, fresh salad bar. If I were a chicken, this is how I'd want to live. So now we're going to move this. We're going to move this net. All right, just like before, when you reassemble this cage, we're going to put our carbon down first. And in this particular case, remember, we're going to take all their weekly bedding that's sitting on top of that tarp inside the chicken tractor. It's going to go in here. Typically, it goes down first. But because it's more straw and it's more stringy, I want to not have it at the bottom layer if I can help it. So we're going to start with the carbon that we got out of the permaculture barn. And we're going to dump it out. And remember, once again, wet everything down. You want to wet it before you even put this stuff in here. Wet the ground. Dump this stuff out. For those of you new, it is critical. If you're wanting to replicate this or something like it, you're going to want to go back to when we first started this thing. You want to know how it's important that you know how the composition in your cage goes. So here we go. We put this stuff down. We're going to wet it. And then every single day, when we get over here, it's about a cubic. When we get to the top of this, it's about 1.5 yards of material. So all we're going to do is every single day, go ahead and spray, honey. Every single day, all we're going to do is add more carbon to the top at the end or the beginning of every day. It doesn't matter. It usually works better at the end of every day. That way you're not attracting coons and stuff like that into this system. So we cover it up, we wet it depending on the moisture, and then we're going to put their feed directly on top. All right, here we are. Everything's in here. We got the bedding from the barn down first. It could be any carbon source. It could be leaves. It could be anything as long as it's carbon. It could be straw, which is what we got in here. That's their bedding. You know, we've took the old bedding out, put it on top. Now Michelle picked some comfrey, which we got tons of, and they were grubbing on over there until I took it away from them. I put that in the cage because I want all of their manure load when they're eating to be in this cage. We're gonna create a, doggone it, one of them little gnats flew in my eye. Anyway, in terms of food, now here's what we got. We got a blue bucket. You got chips and beans and stuff in there, but it's only about 1/4 full. I'm going to dump it in here, spread it out. Some of them are going to say, oh yeah, you know, I want some carbs. Got a little bit of trash in there. And some of them are going to come over here, but by and large, most of them are glad to have the worms that they're getting out of this rainy weather. They're also getting the biota out of the piles. And here they are. We got a little detachment over here doing their thing here. But folks, other people have asked in the past, like, man, doesn't it decimate the ground? Let's go up here and talk about that. That's the real focus of this week. All right, y'all, here's the real focus of this week. And we're going to kind of construct things in this video series, just like we did with the 18-day compost pile, where we take another, because there's so many nuanced features in this system, that every week we're going to go ahead and take another piece of it and explain it in better detail. Last time we did this, we had a number of questions of people saying, man, look at all that bare ground. These chickens, look at them. They're destroying the soil. Nope, they're not. Because what you don't see is, even though those are compost piles, as we move them downhill, we try as best we can to scrape it all up. But there's no way you're going to possibly do that with a rake. So what you don't see, maybe you can to some extent in here, is that there is a layer of compost in here that we could not get out. And believe it or not, as bare as it seems right now, there's still a slight mulch layer that's almost indistinguishable from the compost in there. What's going to happen is, inside of a few weeks, this stuff, the natural seed bank, is going to handle it all for us. So no matter what was growing here, whatever expresses itself better in this improved condition, and yes, it is improved, it will express itself out of that soil. I can take you over here. In fact, maybe we'll just go ahead and do that. I can show you what has come up after we've run these chickens through. And no, they don't decimate the land. They don't rape the land at all. What happens is they leave that composting element a little bit behind, and then what pops up through there is much improved, is better improved than what you had before. In fact, this thing works so well that we've done it before in an orchard setting where we had rows of trees on each side. We ran 3 chicken tractors down through the middle of those. And folks, I wish we were doing a YouTube channel back then, because what came up afterwards was truly astonishing. It was not the briars and brambles and all those things before that were there. It was now lush green grass and it wasn't just a monocrop. Everything that was in that natural seed bank in a healthy state now could express itself. So that's the cool thing about this system, is that you have an area that maybe you don't like, or it's not working out the way you want. Run your chickens through there. Let them handle it for you. And then what's left behind, you now have a substrate in which you can put in there what you would really like to see. So they can be making the compost. We can even take that compost element, spread it out. You can make an instant garden right there on the spot. The only limitations in this entire thing is your imagination, and mine too. So anybody that's doing this, let us know any ideas that you come up with, what you could do with the element that they leave behind. There's so many wonderful spots. So with that said, let's walk over here briefly, and I'll show you one of the areas that they did the last time we did the chicken tractor on steroids. Right here was the last iteration that we did of the chicken tractor on steroids. Now, we do have some pioneer species popping up, and that's normal because this area was massively overgrazed. But all this grass you see coming in here, we didn't seed that. That's what's in the seed bank, and it's distinctly different. We can call this a demarcation point here, but this is distinctly different from anything else around it. That was what was in the seed bank. We didn't do that. And so, folks, yes, you will recover that soil in a massive way if you just give it time, be patient, the whole 9 yards. Folks, this is, I know I say it every week, but I'm saying it now more than ever, because as corn and wheat prices rise, well, the cost of feed is rising. And the cost it's going to take for homesteaders to raise their own meat in terms of meat birds, and also to raise their own eggs, is probably going to get to the point where you might be better served going to the store in terms of the impact on your pocketbook. That is why I am evangelizing this system as much as I possibly can, because we need systems like this that can take waste streams and produce all the things your family needs. So folks, check it out. Beautiful, wonderful system. These guys are happy. These guys and gals are happy. They're doing exactly what chickens were meant to do. And they're in an environment where they can really and best They're in an environment where they can best express the chickenness of that chicken. That is why I'm so hot for this, folks. This system can literally change the world and what we consider as meat, egg, compost production, all on the farm, all right here in one awesome poultry net. So folks, hit that like button. Tell your friends about what we're doing because this is groundbreaking stuff. Subscribe, tell your friends about us, do all those wonderful things, hit the notification bell. So until next week, in this system, this is Billy, the Permaculture Pimp Daddy, where PIMP stands for Permaculture is my passion. And all of this is the reasons why. We'll see you next time.